Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Linda Armstrong here. Today is Friday, December the 28th, 2018. It's 4 p.m. New York time, 1 p.m. in Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London, and in Sydney, Australia, 8 a.m. Good morning, Sydney. And thank you for tuning in from wherever you're tuning in. If you're listening live or you're listening to the recording, either way, we love having you, and we're glad that you joined us for yet another episode of LOA Today. And Linda, we hadn't talked since Christmas. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas holiday. I mean, I've been telling our listeners about what our Christmas holiday was like. Hopefully yours was a little less stressful than ours was, but
Yeah, no, mine was good. Just fun with family.
that's always good. Yeah, that's really what the main thing is with Christmas, I think, because it's a season of giving, but it's also the time to spend time with family and with close friends and just appreciate the people who we love the most in life. So
Yeah.
good. That sounds like it was a good one.
Yep.
Yeah. And Carlos is actually not going to be able to join us. He got a last minute casting call, not even a casting call. He's actually got a last minute part on a set of I don't know what. He didn't tell me in the text message, but he's going to be on set for 10 hours today. So I don't know, Linda. I'd say that's a valid excuse for not making the podcast, you know.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is cool,
Yeah.
especially considering, I mean, you've been telling him the last few episodes or so that's especially when you're drawing some cards and so forth, you were telling him stuff is
Yep.
cooking, and sure enough, stuff is cooking.
Yep.
We're gonna
New
have to wait to find
beginnings.
out what it was. New beginnings. That's right.
Yeah.
And we're coming to the end of 2018 and the new beginnings of 2019. Speaking of new beginnings, and
Yeah.
so that means we all have new beginnings happening. The
Right.
question is, what are we going to do with them, right? Because we
Yeah.
have that option throughout the year anyway. But New Year's is a good time to kind of remind ourselves every day is a new beginning. Every week is a new beginning. A new beginning is whenever we want the new beginning to happen, right? I mean, it's really up to
Yeah.
us.
Absolutely. I mean, every single day is technically a new beginning, you know.
Yeah, it really
So,
is.
but really at this time of year, especially as you close out one year and go into the other, and the high energy of there's a very high energy vibration around with all these holidays and turning into the new year. So it's a really the perfect time to take off into something new, grow something in a new way.
Hmm.
Even if it's just looking at yourself and deciding that, okay, this is the year where I really get to know who I am and what I'm
Right.
all about. It's really an awakening into more of the truth of who we are and what we're here to do. So
Hmm.
it's
That,
cool that for Carlos, this stuff is really like a snowball. It's really
no
gaining
kidding.
momentum for him, and that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it comes in a lot of different ways and shapes and forms. For Louise and I, the new beginning is what happened with her on Christmas Eve, and it basically gave us a new lease on life because um, I told everybody the full story on Thursday in my
Mhm.
podcast with Joel. And so if you want to know the full story, just go look for the episode that's labeled Louise's Miracle Christmas. That'll give you the whole thing. But because of what we've gone through the last couple of months, where literally, I mean, day to day, she had no energy, she had no ability to do anything. Maybe she could do something for 15 minutes at a time. That's all she could handle, and so forth. And then to go through what we went Christmas Eve and Christmas Day to have our miracle happen. And ever since then, her energy has been like off the charts by comparison to where she's been the last couple of months. So there's another new beginning in a really big way that works. In fact, we're so excited about it. Today, Louise drove her car for the first time in 2.5 months because she couldn't
Wow.
drive before. Just too unsafe for her. She couldn't make quick decisions like you have to do when you're driving. Her, perceptions were off, her judgment was off, everything was off, and she was thrilled. She was able to make a trip to the library to pick something up at the library. So
It
it's a
seems like
little
she
thing.
it seems like she hit the reset button.
Well, that
So
was the joke, actually, that her brother and I both made independently of each other. She did a reboot. Her heart rebooted. Just like a
yeah.
computer reboot, and it's like what they say, if your computer isn't working right, you do a reboot, and that fixes most ills. And it apparently also works with the human body, which is kind of cool. I
Well,
didn't know it would do that.
we could even say it's a rebirthing. Like maybe a part of her, certain parts of her, certain patterns, programs pretty much died away so that
Hmm.
this new stuff can come in. Like another aspect of herself, another soul self.
So how does that work? I'm not quite sure how that works.
Well, we're so much more in spirit than we are in this physical body. So sometimes parts of us may kind of leave to make room for other parts to come in. We're
Oh,
still the same.
okay.
It's just different aspects of you. So maybe there's another aspect of her that has something new or something more or something else to do.
Okay.
And she just got possibly this, like you said, reboot. Maybe
Hmm.
she downloaded this new program, this new aspect of herself that she's now going to step into that has
Okay.
reinvigorated her because even if she doesn't even know what that is yet, it's there. And so
Right.
it'll come out as the days go on, weeks, months, it'll start to develop and you'll see.
Hmm.
Then you'll look back, you're like, wow, that was that, you'll know what it was because you don't know now, but you definitely will know more about it a year from now.
Well, that was a topic that we were addressing both this morning and yesterday afternoon, in that there so often we go through these events, and while we're going through them, they make no sense whatsoever. It's all chaotic, it's helter-skelter, like what the heck's going on? What is this crazy roller coaster we're on? And then we look back after the fact, look backward to see what happened, and we see how everything fit together so beautifully and so nicely. And we got a taste of that on Christmas because we could look back and see how all these little events had perfectly timed out. I mean, one of the things I talked about with Joel on Thursday when I told the full story was that we had changed health insurance the week that we went into the healthcare center for the first visit. And
Hmm.
this was not intentional timing. This was just the way the universe timed out for us. I mean, it was time to renew the insurances and so forth. And when we did the renewal, now I think I mentioned to you privately. I don't think I'd said it on the podcast, but we had a very successful year in terms of sales with Louise's gardening business, but a very poor year in terms of profitability because Louise couldn't do very much. So we had to be hiring people to do all this management stuff, which ate up all of our profits. So we actually
Hmm.
had a worse year than we did last year, which is really, really strange. And that worse year put us into an income bracket where we got free health insurance. I mean, absolutely perfect timing. Not even a copay. It's
Yeah.
just unbelievable, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to look back. You can't really look forward to figure out how this stuff's going to work out. You can only look after the fact.
You know
And
what?
like you said, I'm going to be curious to see what's going to be like 3 months from now. But just looking right now, I look back and my jaw hangs open like, oh my God.
You know what's so perfect about that is that there is a plan, right? So, I mean, just earlier today, I walked through my living room to my kitchen, walking around my house, and that my husband's watching something on YouTube or wherever he was watching, and it was an interview with this guy, Robert Schwartz, and I mentioned his book before, Your Soul's Plan.
Right?
Um, and they were talking about this, and I happened to catch the part where he's like, where he's talking about how everything will line up and everything is how it's supposed to be, even when you think it isn't, it is. And so it's almost like if you really kind of grasp that there is a plan, that you made agreements before you came here to live certain circumstances, then you can go through those tough times with a little bit of a different perspective as like, okay, there is a purpose to this.
Hmm.
How is this helping me, as miserable as it seems, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think when you can look at that with more of an open heart and an open mind, it allows it easier for these little miracles to come in and take place because you have an opening for them to come through. I think he was talking about on, well, I mean, it's maybe a little off topic, but he was talking about how you have all these different like death points, points at which you can leave, right? Or different things that will take you in a whole different way. Maybe not even actual physical death, like just it's a lot of rebirthing, right? Old parts of you falling away, new parts of you coming in. So I'd say there's something brewing with Louise that she should be really excited about.
Yeah. Well,
And to,
I'm curious.
you know what? And maybe part of her having no energy was to allow the flow of something instead of fighting, you know, because you notice like when you're struggling, especially all that time you're trying to make things work with the business and it's getting more exhausting and more, and then there comes a point where you're like,
Oh,
okay, I
it
can't do it. I
was.
got to get some help and I got to let go. But in that letting go process, you know, and all of this kind of like downtime, although she wasn't feeling good during this, may have actually allowed for her to be in that space where she's like, whatever, I can't, it's just too much. I'm
Interesting.
just tired. I'm, like, you know, there probably may have been some point where she just took a breath and like, okay. And then a miracle comes in.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's certainly what happened. And it certainly fits with my understanding based on what Abraham has told us and what others with psychic abilities or whatever have told us that the physical side of us is, in a sense, the smaller aspect, and the non-physical side is where the rest of us is, and it's a much bigger aspect.
Yeah.
So
It's
you're
the
kind of
80,
dividing up
it's the 80
into
twenty rule.
the 80-20 rule. So we're 20% in the physical and 80% non-physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
All right.
it. And that 80% makes up your guides, your higher self, different aspects of you. So that's why when I'm talking about how it's like one part maybe left or died away, so this other part can come in now and do its part of the plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All
We'll
right.
see.
So it's like a timeshare, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Timeshare apartment. Different people get to have the access to the apartment or the condo or whatever it is, for a vacation at different times of the year. Well, this
Except,
is different aspects of ourselves getting access to the physical side of who we are.
yeah, different aspects of yourself. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to bring that one up to Louise and see what she thinks.
Yeah.
See if that resonates with her. I
You know
wouldn't
what?
be surprised if it
Have her listen to the Your Soul's Plan. I say listen because I always listen. I don't read.
did.
The Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz. It's a great book.
All right, I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
Her soul's.
It kind of puts perspective on stuff because he goes over like I don't know 12 different people's stories of what they've lived and how they handled it and how when they had these psychics who tapped into the pre-birth planning for the person, not knowing this person's story, but telling them what they saw in the pre-birth planning. And it was exactly what this person just lived. And in many cases, the person had already come to what it was they were to learn in that.
Really?
I don't want to give any of it away because the stories are really good. It'll drive the
Oh,
point
hey, I love
home.
stories, so feel free to give away all you want to. I enjoy stories. I think we all do.
I know, but I don't want to, like when I know I enjoyed reading the book and hearing how this evolved for this person. Like, I don't want to tell you what the outcome was.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So no spoilers here. We won't have to
No,
give spoiler alerts. Okay.
no, because you got to take it however you take it. I'll give you my perspective of what I got, but you might get something totally different.
Yeah, that's true. That can
Yeah,
happen with a book or with a movie. Yeah, we all see things a little bit differently. That's
yeah.
very true. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I have to admit, because of what was going on with Louise, I was distracted. Even though we had a couple days off, Cindy Chavez took off Tuesday and Wednesday, and that was great because I needed to take it off too. So I was kind of away from it. But because of that, I forgot to do all the publicity for all the different shows. So I'm not sure how many people we're going to actually get live for this particular show. And we do have some people who are saying hello,
All
and
right.
uh, and in fact, Bronwyn just echoed what you said. She says she certainly believes what you just said, so she agrees with you entirely. You have an ally. But so I figured, well, why don't we just talk about some stuff related to not just LOA, but to life? Because, I mean, it's a point that I've been making a lot, but I think it bears repeating. All of life includes the law of attraction because it touches every aspect of our lives. So I was thinking, why don't we just talk about like, what's going on with our end of year stuff and what we're looking forward to for the future. If anybody wants to chime in, who's listening to the live stream, they can chime in too. And if there are any questions, I mean, this is officially a Q&A, so if anybody has a question that they want us to address, we'd be loving to address those questions. But why don't we just talk about what we're looking forward to this year? For 2019, I mean, because
Okay.
that's what you do. That's what you do this time of year, right? You review the past year and you look at the next year, see what's coming
Sure.
up. And I know as I'm looking at my own 2018, it's been quite the year. I am looking forward to leaving it behind. I'm done with it. I've gotten everything I wanted to get out of it. I really, this parts of it I hope I never have to go through again, but it's been a good learning year. I've learned a lot. And the biggest good part of the year, there were two really good parts of the year. First, this was the first full year that I did the podcast every single day. Before then, it was once a week.
Mm.
And that was a big, big improvement. I loved that part a lot. The second part was we did the book that came out in May, and that was a big project. That was a lot of fun. So
Nice.
those are two really, really big things that happened this past year. But like Louise's health issue and so forth, I could do without not doing that one again. That once is enough.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
I look at
Yeah.
it. So,
Yeah, but so maybe part of that is you got to see how miracles really do come true.
well, I've experienced them before, and this one was just as chaotic and just as much of a roller coaster as they have been in the past. I guess perhaps I had a little more perspective this time. Like, part of the story that I told was, and I think I told you this privately before, um, when we first went in to have her checked out in November, I think it was just before Thanksgiving, the technician who we met with was a physician's assistant. It was in one of these walk-in clinics, and she's checking vitals, taking history, and so forth. And in the process of all of that, and listening to what Louise's symptoms were, one of the symptoms was an internal tremor, which we now know was because of this arrhythmia that was going on. That in combination with the fact that her pulse rate had previously just been high, let alone bouncing around like it was. So, it's like when your pulse is as high as hers got up on Christmas Eve, it got up to like 159, which is really, really high. It's like running a marathon and you're on lap, 56 and you're just wiped out. That's the way it would feel. But she was lying in bed. Um, well, when you're going through that experience, you feel like you're defeated, and you feel like the world is going crazy. But even in the midst of that, we're talking to this physician's assistant, and she's saying, well, that tremor and all this could actually add up to Parkinson's disease, which she should never have said. That was like the worst thing for her to say, because she was, first
Right.
of all, not a doctor. She should not be diagnosing. And second of all, you don't say something like that unless you have the evidence to back it up. And she didn't have that yet. But she hit the perfect nerve for us because my father had passed from symptoms related to Parkinson's disease. And we had both experienced watching him go through that process. And it was not a happy process. It was very miserable. So all we could think of is her going through the same thing. We were pretty traumatized by it. And yet, despite that happening, all that I had learned from doing the podcast, from interacting with you and the other coaches, and so forth, it cued me on, don't focus on this. This is that false evidence appearing real stuff. Don't focus on that. Focus on the result that you want instead. And I can't lie. I can't say that we were perfect about that. We both were feeling pretty despondent, especially the night that we got that particular message. But we bounced pretty quickly. And I know the next morning I got up with like this new determination to do everything I could to help save my wife, and in the process, focus on getting her into a healthy place. I actually got a photo of her and me together, where she was. This was a number of years ago, and she was smiling and happy. I said, "Okay, this is my visual I'm going to use,
Hmm.
to imagine this is the healthy state I wanted her to be in." And it was within 24 hours after that we found out that it was the wrong diagnosis. But
Okay.
I love the fact that I was able to get into that frame of mind fairly quickly for me. So I can look back to like 5 or 6 years ago when we had another traumatic series of events happen where I was just lost. I had no idea what was going on. This time around, at least I had some sense because I'd been through this kind of craziness before, and I also had like the presence of mind to do something positive to help get us into a better place, and I think it made a difference. So, maybe that's the kind of growth you're talking about.
Well, yeah, because you just were able, because really, if everything's energy and everything is a projection of whatever's going on in here, and you start learning how you can flip your vibration to a higher vibration, which creates more of what you do want.
Hmm.
I like to call it flipping a switch, right? You can flip that switch from, it's not that always that easy. I'm not saying it's that easy,
No,
but
it's not easy. No.
we have the power to flip the switch from what I don't want to what I do want and focus on what I
Hmm.
do want. And in and
And
in
it is a
doing that,
switch. In defense of the idea of a switch, I will mention that because I love Louise so much and she's so important to me, my passion level to help her flew through the roof. So it was really pretty easy to flip that switch because I didn't have to work my emotions up to a fevered pitch. I mean, I was just right there, bang, you know? So
Right.
in that sense, it was a switch to be flipped. It was that simple in a sense.
Yeah. So, and well, you had something specific you can put it to, but you could even flip the switch with something that's not totally related to the thing going on and just get into this other energy because if you know that that other energy is the best way of supporting yourself to get through something, then it's
Hmm.
worth finding whatever way you can to flip it.
Yeah, well,
Because
definitely.
staying in, and it's hard to tell older people like my mom, staying in that worry energy does not in any way support you.
Right.
Not in any way possible.
In fact, not only does it not support you, it actually drags you down.
Right. And
It makes things
unfortunately,
worse.
some of the older people, they look at that worry as love. Like if I'm so worried for this one and for
Mhm.
that one, and
Yes.
I'm so worried because they love them so much. I'm like, you love them so much. Stop worrying. you know, Listen. So it takes some education, my mom, she's starting to get it, right? So,
Good for
it just
her.
blows my mind. I'm like, well, if she can get it, then other people, can get it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good for
Um,
her. That's great that she's getting it. And I agree with you. I mean, I would love to see my mom get this because, I mean, talk about how the mind, the human mind, directly influences our health and causes illnesses and so forth. I can see it in my mom. My mom is in her late 80s. Um, she's been without my dad now for 10 years. My dad passed about 10 years ago. And actually, 10 years ago, in this past March. And she's just kind of collapsed in on herself. I mean, physically, she just has kind of collapsed in on herself. And my sister's the one who's her caregiver. And she's just kind of reverted into like a little kid who needs to be taken care of. And I'd love to see my mom take this stuff on board and recognize that it's all in here. It's what she's
right.
thinking about that's going to influence her state of health. So far, it hasn't happened. Pam, my sister PJ, gives me periodic updates, and there's like little tremors of hope that come through. But
I
I don't
think
know.
the
I would just love to see it happen.
I think the first step is to describe her the way you want to see her.
I've been trying to do that actually. I've been
Yeah.
practicing remembering her the way she was before she started to deteriorate like this.
So it's like
And just
you hold the container,
yeah,
you build it for her to be able to step into it. So if you only feed that energy, that's because you can't create for anyone, but you can influence. So if
right.
you hold that type of energy and even just send that energy to her every day, like before you go to
Hmm.
sleep and when you wake up in the morning, just feed her some of that. You may notice over time that she's a little bit more of herself,
Hmm.
blossoming a little bit, even though she's
Yeah.
up in age, that anything can happen, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's true. Well, I already experienced what happened when I tried to basically influence send energy to my wife because we saw major shifts happening within a very short period of time from doing that. So I know that happens, and also from prior experiences and so forth, and all the many things we've talked about here on the podcast. So I know that that does work, but you're right. I probably need to spend a little more time doing that. I have done that. I have been doing. I didn't think of it in terms of a container, but I have thought about it in terms of what does my mom look like in my mind's eye from when I knew that she was healthy and active and vibrant, and so forth, and trying to hold her and picture her that way. And
Yeah.
I'm hopeful
So
that that's actually getting to her.
container's kind of fun because it's like you're building a space for her to go into.
A space to
A
go into.
container holds space, right? A container is
Okay.
however you want to look at the container. You
Well,
could look at it
so
like a
like
bubble of light.
okay.
Yeah. So the container
Why
is the energy
why a container though? Oh, because it's a way to think of energy. Is that why to think of a container?
because it's like because you're holding a space or building a something for her to step into. You got
Okay.
to call it what you want to call it. Yeah,
Oh, I'm just trying to understand why a container.
okay,
I think
we
it's
could
I think
say
it's an
the
interesting
vision.
idea.
You could say the vision, but the vision feels too ephemeral, right?
Oh, I see. To make it more real.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Certainly context makes a big
it's
difference.
like you're holding this, whatever it is, however you want to look at it, and it's there because you're feeding the energy for it so that when she's ready, she can match and go step into it. It's the
Hmm.
only way my mom's changed, I'm telling you, because I
Really?
didn't do anything to make her change except for hold this space and this energy that I live, and just kind of like almost like invite her into it, you know,
Hmm.
or see only like the good qualities, or see her in an aspect of living in this kind of a space or this container, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Um, and I'm like amazed at how different she is.
I mean, how long did you wait before you noticed that there was something happening? Was it fairly quick, or did you have to wait months, or what was it?
Did we talk about this before, where I just started looking at the positive aspects and it would like flip like this? That's like one aspect of it. But as far as growing into spirituality and her being able to have it be okay for her to question what she was taught as a little girl, like her religious
Mhm.
beliefs, for her to have a question or some doubt, because that was not allowed.
Right.
That was not allowed.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So that's why I was wondering, because that could take some time. It just depends on how much,
I, I am. I
resistance
think
you have
that
to.
I think that that part of the shifting, it probably took some time, but I don't even know how much time, because I'm like amazed many times when I hear her say something. I'm like, wow, that's interesting.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
See,
like
when you
where
get
did
that
that
kind of
come
feedback, that makes it. I think that makes it easier when you get, real world feedback on the thing that you're working on. It makes it easier to keep going and keep believing and keep focusing in the way that you're wanting to focus.
from?
So
Yeah,
I think that's great that you're getting those little pieces of
but I
feedback.
mean, I'm kind of taking credit for it, right? But maybe it wasn't what I did. Who knows? Because it's her
Well, it's
making
like you
these
said. I
changes.
mean, she's the one who has to make the change, but you can't influence her. So I think you
Yes,
can take credit for the influence that you gave. I think
right.
you can definitely take credit for that.
So it's kind of like that thing. If you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful people, because you'll start to take on the energy of the environment that you hold, or that you become a part of.
Hmm.
And that's
Yep.
that's true as far as I know. That I mean, I've seen that before.
Hmm.
And so I feel like by me holding that, by me being me and not hiding what I believe, like now I say people can think I'm crazy all day long. I'm just going to tell you what I believe. What works for me. So I don't squash it. I just let that energy flow.
Hmm.
So, and I always include everyone, people in when I meditate. I'm sending this energy out to everybody, everybody. Basically, it starts out small and it ends up like the whole world. When you get in that flow of energy, you just can't keep it limited to so many people. It's got to just expand. Um,
It makes, well, just from what I know about you and the times that we've had these conversations, that makes a lot of sense to me that you would have that experience. Because, I mean, from the moment, I mean, the first day we did our first podcast together, and then shortly after you did a session with me and did the energy work, and then the next podcast we talked about that. Every time from that point onward, that you've talked about energy or explained how energy worked or whatever, you just get this glow. You get so excited about it. And so I can't imagine how you would not get it to the point where you're spreading it with the whole world,
yeah,
because it just kind of it becomes its own self-accelerating thing.
yeah.
In fact,
But
I'm really impressed how quickly you do that. You do it very easily.
when people are spiritually awakening, a lot of people don't want to share that part of them because they think other people will think they're crazy. And that used to be the experience, but now more and more people are. I mean, it's because truly the energy is changing on the whole planet. So
Mm,
everybody's awakening in some way. So when you start to talk about spirituality and things like that, um, I think as long as you don't direct it towards religion or put down religions,
right.
um, then it's easy for people to catch the wave and kind of let out what they're experiencing. Because really, once people start waking up to this, who had never even had a concept of any of this before,
Hmm.
um, they're afraid to speak it
Yeah,
because they think other
that's
people
true.
won't get them. But what I'm trying to get across right now in a very clumsy way is that more people than you know are getting it. So just be yourself. Let yourself express. If you're going through these things and you're believing something bigger than what you see in front of you, stuff you can see and touch and feel, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Just go with it. So I don't know
Well,
where,
that's
I
what
don't
I've
even
been
know what we
trying to
were
do.
talking about.
Well, no. I think what you're talking about is good stuff. I mean, I've been trying to do that with the podcast, and I have over the years opened up more than I ever did, certainly when I was younger. I've mentioned many times to our listeners how when I was very young, when I was in high school or just out of college, I was literally a wallflower. Nobody would even know I was there. I was so quiet. I would never let anything out. I was very controlled, very, you know, within myself, wouldn't even have a conversation with somebody unless I've been formally introduced. I mean, that's how really rigid I was about it. And one of the things I've used the podcast for, and I had other growth experiences since then, but once I started doing the podcast, I have used it as like a little step by step stepping stone thing to let out more and more and more and more of me and what I feel and what I'm experiencing. And that served me really well with this episode with Louise. One of the things that happened was on the day that we got the news, and that was Christmas Day, that she actually called me the next morning. She let me sleep. I really appreciated that. But after she let me sleep, she was like waiting all night. She wanted to tell me that her heart had done this reboot, and she calls me up. She's so excited. She's telling me about it, and then she asked me, "Can I bring some stuff when I go to the hospital?" And I of course have to get my breakfast and feed the cats and all that kind of thing. So I get up. I'm getting my breakfast. I'm feeding the cats. I'm doing all these things, and these little spurts of emotion were like bubbling up to the surface, wanting to get out. And so I do something for 10 minutes, and I go Yahoo like that, and then I go on to the next thing, like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just like these
good.
little spurts coming out.
Good for
And
you.
I yeah, thank you. This is like a big thing for me because I was finally letting the good feelings get expressed that I would not normally allow myself to express in the past. So yeah, I see this as a growth step for me, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what was I going to say about that? I don't know, but I had this vision. I did a video a long time ago, and it was running like Phoebe. Friends, when the episode where Rachel and Phoebe are running through the park, Central Park, and
Oh, I wasn't a
Jennifer
friend
Aniston's
fan.
like running all cool, and Phoebe's running like a little kid, like all crazy through the park, just running like this, right? And she's so Aniston, Rachel, I guess, is so embarrassed by her, and so they kind of have this thing, and she doesn't want to jog with her anymore. She's like, "What's wrong?" So the whole episode is about that kind of thing, and then
Hmm.
by the end, Jennifer Aniston's running through the park. And then she decides, I think she either saw Phoebe doing her thing over there. She's like, I'm just going to do it. So she starts running all crazy. I think she bumps into the cop on the horse, and but it was so funny, and she's like, oh my god, this is so great, so freeing. So I actually turned it into a process, run like Phoebe.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So if you're having a tough time, and you could do it anywhere, but like, go out in your yard if it's nice weather and just start running like a little kid who has not a care in the world. They don't care what people think, how they look. they're just
This is true.
they're just letting themselves be and express in this joyful, fun way. I mean, that's an instant vibe shifter. I don't care what you're doing. If you can allow yourself to go run like a little kid,
Hmm.
you start laughing at yourself. I mean, you just like shift your energy instantly.
It
So
makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
maybe some
Oh,
people needed to hear that because your story led to that, and we didn't even start anywhere near this in the beginning of this show. So,
yeah,
you know,
we're kind of in like a wild, go off in tangents and then tangents of tangents kind of a show, but that's all right. Those can be fun
we
too.
like those
You actually
shows.
said they're fun. They're
Yeah.
good. You said something a few minutes ago that you've actually mentioned before. I've heard other people mention it before, but I wanted to ask you about it in sort of an experiential viewpoint because you mentioned how there is a growing consciousness. People are becoming more spiritually aware. And I've heard lots and lots of people say that. I've heard psychics, non-psychics, just people into spiritual stuff and so forth. But you're an energy coach. And it's really evident to me every single time just how in contact and in total alignment you are with when energy is really flowing. I mean, you talk about it. You talk about sometimes like you're pulling a card or whatever, and you can just feel the energy flowing down your arm. You can feel the goosebumps or something like that. So I'm curious when you talk about how there there's this growing consciousness, this expansion of spirituality and awareness and so forth. Are you actually sensing that, or are you like me, just kind of parroting what other people said? Are you feeling this growth going on?
I feel it and I see it.
You do.
Yeah, because, people want to hear more when I start talking my stuff. They don't want me to
True.
leave the room. We could be at a party, whatever the event is, but everybody wants to hear what I have to say. These are like friends and
Oh.
family, people who you would think that wouldn't really be into it. They're asking
Hmm.
questions,
Wow.
So like that proves it to me right there and then. People who
Yeah.
call me, people who contact me a lot of times are in that place where um, they're not sure how to express this, and like when they start working with me, and I just let myself be, they I think get a sense of freedom in that. Oh, it's okay. Other people are having this, and you can, so
Right.
I even just I could be talking to a parent at the karate school because I teach karate still, and
Hmm.
mention like I just say what I do outside of karate, and I don't hold back anymore at all. And they're like, "Wow, oh that's interesting. Oh, I heard something like that," or "Oh, someone told me about this book." I mean, I never get the blank look anymore. Like when you could feel the energies, like, "Okay,
I
stop
know what you
talking because
mean.
I don't want to talk about this." Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. I've been running into it with people. I'll volunteer that I do a daily podcast because there's a scheduling issue, and that's why I can't, do it at the time they had in mind. And they'll ask me, "What's the podcast about?" And I always flinch inside a little bit, but I tell them, "Well, it's about the law of attraction." And I can't remember the last time where I said that where I didn't get a positive reaction.
Right.
And there was a time where it would have been just the opposite. So I know
Yeah.
what you mean. You're right. I am experiencing that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm
so
blown away by it.
so
I'm just absolutely blown away.
you know what this drives home? It
What's
drives
that?
home law of attraction. Like attracts like. Energy is drawn to like energy. So really the people, and if I'm living in my own matrix and I create my world, I want to meet those people who are waking up so I can help them to expand into more of this of who they are. So of
Hmm.
course, I'm going to keep finding them. Once I
Right.
let myself go and be like, all right, yeah, this is me and this is what I do, and I'm just gonna because I can no longer help myself from sharing it. It just wants to come out. Like I've had
Does
to learn how to not talk so much. I have to learn how to make shorter YouTube videos because
that?
I'll just
I
keep
could
going
probably learn
on.
that because I'm still doing 1 hour shows. So, I'm probably the wrong person to be on the side of short videos.
Yeah, well, YouTube, you need to have some short videos. You can do long ones too, but
That's
so,
true.
yeah. So anyway, where were we? I don't know.
I was
Yeah,
not,
like attracts like. So it's just proving it. It's just proving it. So like the more you want your show to grow, start walking into stores and say, "Hey, I do Law of Attraction podcast. Anybody interested? I'll give you the website. Have you
yeah, I'm
ever
not sure if
heard
I'm
of
ready
it?
to do
Oh,
that
you
yet, but
haven't?
I
Well, let
see
me
what you
tell you
mean.
about it.
I see
Yeah.
what you mean. Yeah, I don't. That would actually be that would take a lot for me at this point. I'm not ready to do that. I don't think. That's my shy side still saying no, no, no. I can't do that.
All right. So let's put this one down in the books because I'd say by the end of 2019, it's gonna be no biggie.
Okay. I'm considering how much I've been going through in terms of a growth curve over the last couple of years. I
Yeah.
agree that's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to look back and say, well, geez, that wasn't so bad. Because that's what happens, right? You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
after we go through it. So, how
All
about
right.
you? What's on the horizon for you for 2019?
Well, I really, for me, the big shift has been I'm taking what I do online in a bigger way. Like I started out working online, then I just pulled myself into just working with people in my local area. And so
Hmm.
now I'm going back to building the online presence again. And so I'm going to start doing some group coaching and healing on like Wednesday nights and Monday afternoons. So that's something I'm promoting right now. So I want to build more of that. I love the one-on-one work. I really love that, but I want to be able to reach more people. So when I do it with the group, it's cheaper for them because it is a group. And
Absolutely.
I still and sometimes the group energy could be even more powerful than the one-on-one. So you got to kind of find like what works with you. We talked about group energy before.
Right.
So, so that I'm building more of that. But like I have my big picture for Arizona, and every now and then it comes in, and then I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But I'm like, all right, if I'm supposed to be doing this, somehow it'll work out. So there's always that thing where I have this healing center in Arizona, and it's not just for those people who want to come for like the healing and the spiritual awakening work and all that, but the whole family could be there because my
Okay.
husband is like knows everything about survival and living off the land and
Ah,
how to build things and weld and like there's so many things. And my son's the same way. And then you have all the off-road vehicles. My son's into all that kind of stuff, right? The
yes. Okay.
four-wheeling and so the whole thing could be like a family getaway where maybe some of the members are doing all the spiritual work and some of them are doing all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I've got a
And
lot of it figured out, like, but I don't know how it ever happens. So I figure, all right, Spirit, why did this come to me? If it came to me, there's got to be some reason for it. Like, lead the way. So I don't know if I'll be anywhere near any of that towards the end of the year. Maybe I'll be moving to Arizona. We'll see.
any particular reason why Arizona? Why pick Arizona? I mean, it's an interesting choice.
I lived in California for a while. I've always kind of been drawn to Arizona, although I've never really spent any time there.
Hmm.
Um, my husband likes certain aspects of Arizona, and my son, of course, because where I live in New York, New Jersey, there's nowhere to really go and take your
Yeah,
off-road vehicles. I mean, there's
you have to
just
drive a long
nowhere.
way.
You got to travel like an hour and a half, 2 hours to go anywhere and do anything like that. So my son's like, yeah, I want to hop out in my backyard on all these acres, and because that's what we want, is a really big piece of land, right, to build this whole
Right.
thing. Whenever I
Absolutely.
want, on all my toys. It's got the toys. And it's just too hard to play with them around here. So there's things like warm weather. I'm so tired of this cold weather.
I hear you. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
grew up here. I lived in California for 6 years. And I love, actually, when I was there, Walt, and it rained, I was like so happy. I'm like, oh, it's so nice. I was in Southern California. You really appreciate these things. And the change of climate, you can't beat that. I mean, I love that. But where I want to go in Arizona will be a little bit higher climate, higher altitude, so that it won't be as hot. And I mean, you can go skiing in Arizona. So
Really? Oh, I didn't know they had ski
up
resorts
in
there.
Flagstaff, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. We did actually. My family visited Flagstaff, and we went to the Grand Canyon, of course. And that's the one that really sticks in my mind. That I can't remember what that one main overlook is, but it's just seared into my memory when
Yeah.
you're looking at it. And it's one of those things you walk up, you walk, I don't know what it's like now. This was like 35, 40 years ago, something like that, 45 years ago maybe. But you walk up to the overlook, and at the time there was just a low level fence, and you just kind of look, and you say, okay, well, I'm looking at this basically this valley, and then you look closer, and then everything starts to come into proportion. You get a sense of that's a tree down there. That's not like this little plant. That's a full-size tree. And it looks like
Yeah.
it's about this big. And then you get a sense of the enormity of this thing that you're looking at. And you
Yeah.
just stand and stare at that. You can stare at it for a half an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's just your senses trying to make sense out of this amazing thing that you're seeing. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand why it's one of the most popular monuments in the country because it's an amazing place to be at. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that really, 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 really clearly. I'm
Uh,
not sure if
so,
I want to live in Arizona for that, but yeah, I like it.
so should I do a quick card reading since we're to close
Yeah,
out the
sure.
show? And
Yeah,
were
let's
there
do
any
that.
questions or anything? Anybody
It's
out
been,
there?
really, Bronwyn's been the only one who's been commenting, and she loves what we've been talking about. But no, it's been pretty quiet. So yeah, we
All
can
right.
get some cards. That's fine.
So I'm going to pick for the group, though, for whoever might be watching this later. So the
Yep.
first one is koi fish in the
Koi
upright
fish.
position. I'm going to pick three cards, and then I'll just read from the book, and then we'll just interpret. I'll interpret, we'll interpret whatever comes to us.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
This,
good.
you too, Walt. Metamorphosis. Ooh, that's pretty cool
That
at this closing out one year and going into the next one.
well, especially given all the things that we've been talking about, where there's been all these transitions and changes, actually makes a lot of sense even without knowing what the description is.
Yeah. And then the other one, the koi fish was there's always enough. Okay, so we're talking about abundance. And let's
Uh,
see what the angels want to give us.
okay.
Okay. Cleanse and detoxify. Okay. All right,
Okay.
so let's get into it. Koi fish spirit is number 36. Okay,
And
and it was upright.
Brian,
So,
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because we're already getting people asking for cards. This is actually a group card reading. That's going to be our
right.
practice going forward.
Yeah,
So instead of doing individual cards for everybody, we're going to be
it's
drawing
general.
cards that it applies to everybody who's listening, either live or to the recording after the fact. So Bronwyn, these are your cards, and they're also everybody else's cards.
Yes, there you go. All right, so it says the koi fish who grows big within a small pond reminds us that within each of us is the potential for prosperity. The law of abundance ensures that prosperity is our natural state. So regardless of our outer conditions, you can call in prosperity and magnetically attract the opportunities and abundance that you need. The message of koi fish spirit is to begin generating wealth within with deliberate intention, no matter how small your pond may seem, and appreciate abundance whenever you see it. Outer conditions will come to reflect your inner prosperity. So begin to become the self who is comfortable with wealth in all forms. Even if at the moment it feels as if riches are not yours, they soon will be. Start to
Mm,
envision
that's
the plenty that Spirit wants you to experience, knowing that the moment you begin to commit to conscious and deliberate co-creating, Spirit will joyfully start bringing you what you need. You have so much to offer and so much value to express to the world. In your little pond, there is much you can create and much you can attract. Do not underestimate what you have and who you are, for koi fish spirit wants you to know that you are exquisite, loved, and deeply cherished. Trust that the outer conditions are changing to reflect that truth. And that's really cool. And I mean, I know you've been talking about that on the Neville Goddard book, right?
absolutely. Oh yeah, that's a huge portion of his message, and I've
That's
actually been
all of it.
practicing. I've been
Yeah.
practicing specifically exactly what that card was talking about. That is focusing on the part that I really love and that I really want and pretending like it is my reality. I've actually been doing it with videos because I think I mentioned to you before. In fact, I know I did because you were kind of teasing me about, don't keep repeating that story over and over again. But
Yes.
I had long had difficulty in visualizing. So I figured, well, I'm going to change that story around. I can't necessarily imagine in my mind how to visualize when I've never been able to do it. But hey, I'll just create videos or I'll find videos that match up with what I'm trying to attract into my life. So I've actually started putting together. I have my first 3 or 4 videos all kind of chained together with some software that I have, and I'm watching this video every single day, and the video includes a segment that reminds me of this podcast growing and attracting a big audience and so forth. Second part is about monetary abundance. Third part is about a new home for Louise and I. Basically visualizing, doing one of these little trips through a home, like a virtual trip through a home, seeing all
Yeah.
the rooms, the kitchen, and the living room, and the bedrooms,
That's
and
how
all
I
that
got
kind of thing.
mine.
Yeah, that's how you got yours. Okay, yeah. And then the fourth one is some film that I got from Hawaii because that's one of my favorite ideas for a travel destination is to go to Hawaii. So I've got all these streamed together. It's about a 13-minute video so far. And I'm figuring, okay, this is going to be my way to visualize. I'll just keep adding videos as I find new stuff to tack on. So I got my vision board.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I would also just add to that one when you have when you catch yourself having a negative belief or thought about wealth and prosperity, take
Mm-hmm.
note, maybe even write it down, and then say the opposite, right?
Oh, yes.
Because we're conditioned to think things, oh, the rich people are miserable, or rich people are greedy, or like all these different things, beliefs. And so you could even just write, first of all, writing it down is one way of maybe taking it out of your system. I'm just saying things other than like getting energy healing. And
Right.
burn it. Send it to the universe. I no longer will hold this. I will no longer hold this belief. Burn it.
Hmm.
Send it out. Let the universe take it away. Make up your own ways of releasing it. But definitely you want to catch yourself. And I think because I'm saying this, maybe now you'll catch yourself. It's like negative self-talk. Once you're aware of negative self-talk, you hear it, and then you instantly, I would just flip it. And then after a while, you don't do it anymore. I've lived through that experience. That's why
It's
I teach
true.
that, because I
Oh,
know
no,
it.
I agree completely. That's exactly what happens. And the biggest part is catching it. Once you
Yeah,
catch it, then you can start playing with it and, like you said, pivoting it around and finding the good side and so forth. But for me, just the biggest part is just catching it. Once I started catching it, I started getting excited because, like, oh wow, I'm actually starting to reverse this whole thing now because I can
absolutely. It's the
finally
first
identify
step.
that. Yeah.
It's the first step. Look, I opened up the page.
What do you, oh, metamorphosis. Oh, cool.
Number 25. And it's funny because when I opened up the first one, I'm like, oh, I didn't open to the page. But I didn't tell you that, right? I was just reading it. Because
That's
I
all right.
love when I open to the page. To me, it just gives it that extra bit of like, yeah, spirit's talking. Okay,
Okay.
so the Metamorphosis card is saying butterflies earn their wings through great effort. The process of change is often painful, for it, for it is never without losses and sacrifices. If you are to transform from one form to another, a part of you needs to die.
Hmm. That's very similar to what we
Letting
were
go
talking
isn't
about earlier.
easy. Yeah. Letting go isn't easy, especially when you're used to thinking in a certain way about your life and how you live it. Just as the snake sheds its dead skin or the caterpillar dies so that the butterfly can be born, you're required to release your old ideas and embrace a necessary change so you can live your best life. Perhaps you're being asked to let go of low self-worth, a dream that no longer serves you, a relationship that's draining, or an unhealthy habit. Despite your fear, you must accept that this is a transformational time for you. There will be some loss involved, but you'll love what you become. All right. So to me, that's a little bit about our conversation with Louise before, don't you think?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
about everything at this time of year, with changing from from one year to another, letting
Hmm.
go of what doesn't serve you. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Bringing in these new aspects of yourself, however they want to come in.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you flipped the book up and it showed that you turned immediately to metamorphosis. That's exactly what I was thinking was those aspects.
Yeah.
Because when you said that, that stuck with me. I don't know if you
Yeah.
realize that,
No. Oh
but
yeah. No, I know. And totally goosebumps head to toe.
yeah, I love
Are
it.
you getting them? Do you feel it?
I don't quite get that. No, I mean, I get it more in terms of like whenever I see a reaction from you or from one of my co-hosts that just works beautifully with what's going on, I feel like a little tickle inside. I don't feel
Okay.
like goosebumps. I just feel
Okay.
like this little
But you feel it.
piece of joy. Yeah.
It lets you know that yeah, this is in line with spirit. This is like you're on the right track. Okay, so
Yeah.
cleanse and detoxify. It says with great love and respect, we ask that you detoxify your precious and sensitive body. At your request, we'll help you to develop life-affirming ways to deal with stress, as well as ease any sorrow at shedding your old ways. Give your cares, worries, and concerns to us, and feel the beautiful grace of your newly purified body. So this card signifies the angel's recommendation that you eliminate chemicals and toxins from your body. Your sensitivity to drugs, food additives, including sugar, alcohol, caffeine, or nicotine, has increased. These substances are interfering with your ability to hear your angels, so they ask you to avoid them. The angels will gladly help you with stress or cravings if you will ask. So they give possible other meanings for the card, so I'm gonna read those too. It
Okay.
says use herbal means to cleanse, such as wheatgrass juice or psyllium seeds. Consult a holistic nutritionist. Call upon Archangel Raphael to reduce and eliminate cravings. Avoid toxic relationships or situations. Ask Archangel Michael to clear your body and home of any lower energies. You can do that anytime. And use gentle earth-friendly cleaning supplies. Now, I will say, I'll add to that too, that as people start waking up into knowing themselves as more than just, this physical body, so
Hmm.
as you're spiritually awakening, you do become more sensitive to energy, and that includes things that you put into your body too. So you might notice that kind of stuff.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm intrigued by that particular card coming out, in part because, well, this is also due in part to what Louise was going through, but that became like a motive for me to join a gym. I hadn't been a member of a gym ever, actually. I'd gotten exercise other ways, but during the winter, you know what it's like in the Northeast. I mean, there are some days you just can't get out to do stuff. It just doesn't work. So I figured, okay, I need to be a member of a gym. And I joined one about 2 or 3 weeks ago and kind of did it with the idea of rebuilding my own personal physical energy because I've been noticing, a lack of energy over the last few years. And thinking that if I can just get myself into being active on a daily basis, then that energy is going to keep coming back. But at the same time, I also recognized I need to do things like, cut down on the sugar, cut down on all that stuff, because my tone is not what it was, and it needs to come back, and that means, letting go of the stuff that holds that back. So I've been thinking about that quite a bit lately, and so when you pull that card, I think, well, geez, that's right where I've been. That's what I've been thinking about.
And and usually that's where a lot of people think by the end of the year, starting out a new year at this time.
Hmm.
You can do this at any time of the year, start out a new year, right?
Right,
Any day.
right,
But now it's
right.
just more on your mind, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a perfect card to come out.
yeah, those are
We've
three
got
good cards.
abundance, we've got metamorphosis, and we've got cleanse and detoxify.
I'm, I love all three. I think those are perfect. I'll just hang on to those for the rest of the year. I think that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're right in they're in my wheelhouse. That's exactly where I want to be focusing my attention. That's where my little video is focused. It's focused on those elements. In fact, the next element I'm going to be adding in is a health element. Some sort of a video that symbolizes for me where I want my health to be, where I want Louise's health to be, and just kind of add it to my little, what do I call it? Do I call it a video board? I'm not sure what to call it, but whatever it is.
Visual.
So
It's a visual. Yeah, whatever. Your thing. It's my thing.
my thing. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, good. This has really been good. We got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure that I get the promos in. I haven't actually done them the last couple of shows, so I got to do this one. If you're not yet a subscriber, please do become a subscriber. It's pretty easy to do. We put the links in just about everywhere that you can see the recordings appearing online. But just in case you can't find them there, go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. You'll find links for Android users. You'll find a link for Apple, iPhone, iPad users, and so forth. Just pick the one that fits you, click it through, walk through all the steps of the wizard, and it'll just walk you through the process of becoming a subscriber. And then for all people who are subscribers, please be sharing the fact that you're listening to or watching the live stream or listening to the recording of LOA Today each time that you're doing it, because as people do that sharing, more and more people find us. And that's really part of my dream. You're going to help make my manifestation come true. You're going to make it possible to have more and more people get their daily dose of happy. So I thank you in advance for that. And one last moment before we part company for the year, because we won't be talking again until next year. Linda, tell people more about your service and how that they can reach out to you in case they want a little more personal help with energy work.
Sure. Okay. So I'm an energy healer, spiritual awakening coach. If you go to my website, lovemylife.coach, you can actually go to the workshop. You can go to any page. You'll find out about me and what I do. But I have a page on their workshops that's where I'm talking about this new thing that I'm promoting with the online group coaching and healings, and also meditation, really deep healing meditations I'll be taking you through each week. So that information's there. And anyone interested in like this, I keep saying spiritual awakening. I have an article in my blog post, if you go to my blog, but you got to go down a bit because it was like one of the first ones I put onto this new website. 51 signs of spiritual awakening. It's pretty cool. You'll be like looking at it like, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's me. I went through spiritual awakening. Yay! So if you're interested in that, it's really pretty cool to read some of that stuff.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I look forward to doing it again next year because that's always the big joke that we do at the end of the year, right? I'll see you next year. But no, I
Yeah.
really do look forward to doing it again next year. And I hope you have a wonderful new year, Linda, and
Thank you.
all the abundance in the world coming your way.
Thank you. You too. And I'll be sending some healing out to Louise.
Thank you. On her behalf, thank you very much. And I
Yeah.
also want to thank, she asked me specifically to say everybody who sent their good wishes her way. She really appreciates it. So thank you, all of you, for the love and energy you've been sending. And with that, we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.